Hi BookTube, Lynette here, and today's video is going to be my December wrap-up. So if you saw my December TBR, then you know that I had set myself a bit of a goal to finish all the books that I had started during 2023 but hadn't yet finished. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how I did. I did very well. I didn't finish them all. I still have one book left to read, left to finish, but I did make a good dent in it, and that book is The Ruin of Kings by Jenn Lyons. I'm not quite halfway through, but I think I'm definitely a good third of the way through that one. And with my reading plans for January, I'm probably not going to finish it this month, but I'm hoping to finish it in February instead. My first finish of the month was I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This was the November book club pick, and I finished it just in time for the meeting. I didn't really go much on this book. I think I only gave it 2.5 stars. I just don't think it's for me. I think it was meant to be a romance, and the romance just didn't work for me in the end. And it didn't work for my cat either. I just wasn't enjoying it. It was, excuse my cat, she's not feeling very well today and she's feeling a bit needy. But no, I don't know. I couldn't decide. Cassandra was either very worldly wise or very naive. The author couldn't quite make up her mind where she wanted her to go with that. And there was supposedly other love triangles in there, and I'm not a fan of a love triangle anyway. So yeah, this book sadly wasn't quite for me. And I was quite sad about that because I read 101 Dalmatians, which is also by Dodie Smith, a long time ago, and I really enjoyed it. Although as a child I enjoyed it, but as an adult I think I prefer the Disney film to the book. But yes, this is definitely going on the unhaul pile, so that maybe someone else can enjoy it, hopefully, but no, definitely not for me. The second book of the month that I finished was The Company of Fiends by Catherine Moon. This is the second book in her Tempting Monsters series, and it is a reverse harem romance. And it's the main female character is having relationships with various different types of paranormal creatures. In this one, I think we had fairy. I think we had someone who has multiple limbs, which was interesting. We had a troll, I think, or some sort of creature like that. Yeah, and we just have all sorts of interesting creatures. This young woman, she is not quite human herself, only she's hiding that from everyone around her. Nobody quite knows that she isn't human. And she is part of a theatre group that puts on spicy scenes for the monster community that is living in the underground. It's set in late 1800s London, and it's just a good fun time. It's a very long book because there is lots of setting up, because she has to set up all the relationships with the different partners that the young woman is going to be moving forward with, and it does take a bit of time. So it is a long book for that reason. But that's nice because instead of scrimping on some of either the plot or some of the romance, she is able to give a bit more time to it. The plot of this is that someone is attacking young women who work at the theatre, human women who work at the theatre, and murdering them. And our main character is in danger because she has been targeted by the murderer. And they're trying to find out who the murderer is. We do get a visit from the characters in the first book. They do come into it slightly. because the murders are linked to that first story, that first book. And I believe the third book is going to follow a new group again, but again is going to carry on this underlying storyline. I quite enjoyed it. I definitely have a book 3, Sanctuary with Kings, on my Kindle ready to start at some point, hopefully in the month of January. So yes, and I definitely go searching for more books by Catherine Moon. I think reading the second book was easier than reading the first because they are so long, and I think knowing what the first book was like, I think that helped me with moving forward through the second book. So you just need to be aware that she's trying to give you as much world information as possible without boring you, but also keeping you engaged with the plot line. So if this is something you're interested in, I do recommend giving her a go. My third book of the month was the December book club choice, and I wanted to get this read quite early in the month because we read a romance that is my type of romance, and I wanted to get it read because from what I know of the other ladies, and 2 of them especially, I know for definite, this is not their normal genre, go-to genre. These are not books that they would go hunting Kindle for or bookshops for. So I wanted to try and get a flavour of it myself, so that because this is the books that I would read, I knew that there would be some spicy, steamy scenes in it, and I wanted to give the rest of the group the option to ask me how many there were, how often it was, before they went into it, just in case it would be an issue for them. So I did read it quite quickly in the month. As always, I don't retain any information from these books, so I have no idea who the main characters were. All I know is that it was about a young woman who, the book starts, she is just leaving, going on her way home after a big family Christmas. Her parents and their 4 best friends get together every Christmas and spend Christmas together. She is in love with the elder son of one of her parents' friends. Only she isn't together with him, and as they're leaving, she begs the universe to show her what would make her happy. She's in a car accident, and when she wakes up, she's on her way back to start the holiday again, and she's in a time loop, stuck in a time loop. So just think Groundhog Day with serious romance. I found this quite enjoyable. So for me, when I read these types of books, I'm not thinking about how good the plot is. For me, I'm thinking about how effective is the plot at moving the romance forward. And I thought it did quite a good job. We do get multiple jumps back in time. I maybe could have done with one more. I think the whole book would have benefited maybe from one more mistake that would have sent her back in time, but I think the 2 or 3 jumps that we did get were enough to give you a flavour of what the universe was doing. Basically every time she did something that the universe thought was a wrong turn, she would be in some sort of incident that would cause her to become unconscious, and she'd end up back at the beginning again. It is all about her getting together with the older brother, who it turns out is also in love with her. I felt there was some weak points in the story in terms of the romance, them getting together. It was clear that I don't think that the love interest was being quite clear enough that he was interested. I think there was a little bit of, I want her to know that I'm interested, but I don't want her to know that I'm interested. And I think that bled through a little bit, and I don't know that that was necessarily all that well done. But I did enjoy the book. This was my first book by Christina Lauren. I would definitely read them again. In fact, in my 2024 reading journal, I have listed their backlist titles that I'm interested in picking up. So I will probably see if I can get hold of some of those through my library this year, and read more of them. This is definitely, from what I understand, one of the better ones that she's written, maybe. it was certainly a good place for me to start. My third finish of the month was, not only was it a finish for the year, but it was a series completion, and that is Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. I don't know why I've sat on this series so long. I thoroughly enjoy Laini Taylor's writing. This series isn't as lyrical as the Strange the Dreamer series in turn, and it has a bit more colour to it, not quite so dreamlike despite the title, but we are continuing Karou and Akiva's story, love story, as well as the war between the Chimera and the Angels. And in this you get a bit more of the backstory about how the Angels and Chimera came to be in this world, a little bit more backstory about the war. There were some things that I think were a bit rushed towards the end, and this is not a happy ever after ending. Spoiler alert. It is and it isn't in its own way. I was pleasantly surprised by how Laini Taylor ended Karou and Akiva's story. I think there is maybe room for a novella or something to come after this. I think there is one. I think it's Night of Cake and Puppets, but I don't think it follows Karou and Akiva. I think that covers another couple that are featured in this book. But I would be interested to know how Akiva and Karou are continuing to manage, other than just the short epilogue you get at the end of this one, to be in their relationship together. I have this down as my best book of the month, and yeah, I would really like to go back to the beginning and read through again. Maybe because I'd forgotten some things. It kept referring to things that happened in the first book, and I'd completely forgotten about them because it had been years since I'd listened to the first book. So at some point I do want to reread the story, binge read the whole thing from start to finish, so that I remember the first book when I get to the last book. But yes, definitely would look out for, I don't know if Laini Taylor has any more books out, but I definitely need to look into that and look out for them if there are. My next finish of the month was Guns Blazing, which was the anthology of short mafia romance novels that I had picked up a few years ago, and this book was just so for me. A lot of the mafia stories, the authors had written prequels to their current series or in addition to series, and you needed to know more information about what was going on, and it just didn't work for me because this was I don't really read mafia romance novels. They go moving into the darker tone of them. I more prefer contemporary or fantasy romance. The darker themed ones just aren't for me. And it was a bit of a chore, a bit of a slog to get through this. I actually ended up taking a fairly okay-ish length bath while I was at my mum's and just knocked a few of the stories out while I was soaking away, to make myself sit and read it. But yeah, it's definitely not one. There were maybe one or two authors that I would want to follow up on, but no, none of them actually made me want to pick them up and explore more in the mafia romance world. So it was just an okay finish for me, and I'm glad it's done with finally. My final finish of the year was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And again, this one was another one that was a bit of a flop for me. It was okay. It was in the 3-star region. But I don't get what all the hype was around this. The main relationship is between a young couple who meet when they're children and they bond over playing video games. One of them is in hospital having treatment. The other one is in hospital visiting a sick sibling. And they bond over video games. They meet up then later in life and they start creating video games together commercially. And their friendship is toxic. They there is no communication between them as friends. If I was having thoughts about someone I thought was a friend in the way that these two are thinking about each other, I would probably cut them off. If they were someone that was in a work relationship, I would do my best to maintain the work relationship. They don't even do that. They can't work together. They're really bad at being friends with each other. And I just didn't get it. I mean, some of the other stories in here, so there is a romance between the main female character and another main character who's with them through most of the story. There is a tragedy linked to that. I much preferred their relationship. I thought that was much more, and I think I probably would have thought more of the book had she lent more into the growth of that, to see them falling for each other. And yeah, there were other relationships. There was another couple who worked for the company that they set up. I would have liked to have seen more between the two of them. There was a little bit there. But then again, towards the end of the story, that relationship appeared to be a little bit toxic as well. So again, and all the gaming speak. I'm not a gamer, so again, some of the language and everything used in here, this book just wasn't for me, I think, is probably the best thing for me to say about it. I can see the bones of a good story, but yeah, I just think it took quite a lot of the bad things from relationships and has sensationalized them a little bit. So no, I don't know anyone that I would put this book in the hands of to read either. So this is probably going to go on the unhaul pile as well as I Capture the Castle. So to appease the stats lovers, because I realise now I've finished talking about the books, I didn't talk about any stats. I finished 6 books. I read a total of 2,926 pages. There were no audiobooks. There were 3 print books and there were 3 ebooks. They were classic, romance and fantasy, and my average rating was 3.42. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have you read any of the books that I mentioned? What did you think of them? Leave me a comment down below. I actually didn't take part because I hadn't finished it in the book club meeting for tomorrow and tomorrow. So let me know, those of you who watch, what did you think of it? Let me know, please. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. Did you think it was toxic like I did, or did you like the relationships? Yeah, let me know what you think down below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, then please subscribe to see more of me in your feed. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!